In tonight's edition of the Crockett Chronicles, Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett lets it be known to MAGA that if you're questioning the Democrats, it's time to face the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just in case I go over, I just wanted to note that the previous speaker went over by a minute. We've heard a lot about the fact that Democrats have been talking about Elon Musk. And let me give you a news alert. We're not gonna stop talking about him. We're gonna keep talking about him until he is out of here. Now, if he wants to be elected or appointed and confirmed to something, then so be it. But as of right now, we have somebody that for whatever reason, I don't know if y'all just trying to play in our face because you think we're stupid, or if you literally just cannot see the difference in a George Soros and a Bill Gates. But let me give you a little bit of the difference. Number one, George Soros nor Bill Gates ever somehow decided to turn off the spigot of money that was going through to various organizations and agencies to the extent that it had actually been ordered by law that they should have access to it, to the extent that people are dying. There are people that have died as a result of this antic, and there are now farmers that are screaming that they may lose their family farms because we have over $500 million worth of food that is sitting and not going anywhere because of the attempt to shut down U.S. aid. So let me tell you, that is the big difference between the two of them. And let me also tell you that a big difference between Democrats and Republicans is that we don't just say we believe in the Constitution, but we walk it like we talk it. What does that mean? That means that if we believe in the Constitution, we don't just pick out the Second Amendment and say that it is limitless, nor do we pick out the First Amendment and say that it is limitless. The thing about the Constitution is that it has always been a balancing test. There are limits to this. And right now, what we continue to hear from a certain side of the aisle is that there are no limits to this lawlessness. In fact, there are limits. And I can tell you that one of those limits typically is around hate crimes. You may or may not know that when it comes down to it, if somebody decides that they want to send something hateful in, say, the U.S. mail, they can actually go to prison for that, up to 5 years in prison. So yes, there are always going to be limits. So when we start to talk about Trump and him being pulled down on any platform, this just happened to be after he incited an insurrection. This just happened to be after, in a bipartisan way, this particular chamber decided that they were going to impeach him. So there was something a little different about what he did, because as we know, it led to people actually dying. But let's talk about who's doing the nefarious things with the tech giants. Because I don't think that one side of the aisle is promoting truth, but sometimes it may seem a little treasonous. All right, so we've got this article right here about this guy. Meta says it will end its fact-checking program on social media posts. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Then we have Washington Post says it will not endorse a candidate for president. We also know that actually they absolutely intended to endorse Kamala Harris. We have this one. Google Maps now show Gulf of America instead of Gulf of Mexico for app users in the United States, which is a complete farce because it's the Gulf of Mexico. It always has been. And we know that the AP got kicked out yesterday because they refused to buy into this lie, because that's all y'all really want to promote is lies. That's the big issue that we have. Elon Musk boosted false U.S. aid conspiracy theories to shut down global aid. Now, while he was boosting those lies about U.S. aid, and he was stopping money going for, say, things such as Head Start, somehow the only money that didn't stop was the money to him and his organization. Now, I don't know how you can have him be the watchdog as well as the guy that is literally living off of the government. If we want to talk about government welfare, it looks like Elon Musk, because it's my understanding that just on yesterday, a new contract was approved for approximately $300 million for Elon Musk. So listen, I just want y'all to be honest. You want to sit here, you want to lie, because so often we hear, well, you know, yeah, we did lie. In fact, he admitted that he lied when he was in the Oval Office yesterday. But if it's a lie that will get you into office, such as saying, I know nothing about Project 2025, yet on day one, you literally do everything that you can to implement it, including making sure that you put, say, one of the main architects of Project 2025 over the OMB, it's okay, so long as you get the power that you seek. The problem is that the game is going to be on the American people. And when I say the American people, I mean all of us. Unfortunately, I am also stuck in the twilight zone because of the lies that were allowed to be propagated. Just like when you're talking about vaccines and all this nonsense. Right now in my state of Texas, there is an outbreak of measles. And what they are finding is that because there's been so much disinformation about vaccines, that kids are sick right now with measles that they did not have to have if they just trusted doctors and experts instead of randoms online. So I will end by saying this, Mr. Chairman, because I know we believe in Jesus in this chamber. In John 8:32, it says, the truth shall set you free. So maybe we should focus on a little bit of truth in this chamber.
My goodness, Jasmine Crockett has been speaking truth to power. Dr. Avis, from where you sit, obviously Jasmine Crockett is establishing a standard in terms of how this foolishness needs to be pushed back. What's your assessment of what Democrats have been doing so far? Because we don't seem to see that type of fire. I mean, there obviously are exceptions, but what's your assessment of what Democrats are doing up to now in the federal legislature, and what do you think they should be doing?
How unfiltered am I allowed to be?
Now, you hear from the founding, Doc. You already know what this is. We're 2 blocks from the White House, so I don't know if they come busting up in here, knuck if you buck. But I'm just saying, go ahead.
Now, here is the thing. I understand that they are at a numeric disadvantage. So I understand about the practicalities of what they can and cannot do with regards to asserting power over the situation. However, I have been beyond disappointed in seeing the relative silence out of them for weeks. And let me just also say this. I don't understand why not one member of the Congressional Black Caucus has said shit about the fact that we have lost 60 years of civil rights infrastructure on his first day in office. And it is now legal to discriminate in hiring and federal contracting throughout the federal government and with every private company that does business with the federal government. So I want people to understand that now you might as well be living again in Jim Crow, because this is Jim Crow era legal realities that we're operating under right now as Black people in America. And where are our leaders? I hear crickets. I hear crickets. And I appreciate what Representative Crockett is doing, like the energy that she's bringing to this.
Yes.
But I'm still pissed that it took weeks for them to sort of get the memo that they need to do something except just being, in essence, these very timid questioners as people are being approved. And I'm still waiting for someone to express outrage, for someone to really understand and articulate to the American people what it means when he rescinded Executive Order 11246. I think that it is derelict of duty for those people who claim to be leaders. And let me just also say, and I'll stop here, not just elected leaders, but those who claim to be leaders in our community. Where are you? Where are you now?
That's right.
Why are you so silent?
That's right.
Why are you muzzled? Who is really pulling the strings?
Yes.
What is going on here? Because I understand the gravity of this moment. I'm outraged. I'm pissed. I'm doing what I can do as a private citizen, specifically with regards to trying to help give direction to business owners who have been sorely impacted by this as we speak. But those people who are elected to office in heavily Black districts, and seeing the rights of Black people being ripped away right in front of their eyes, the silence is deafening. And I just want to finally say, this needs to be rectified, or there needs to be some different choices made when primary season comes. Because I believe that if we're going to have leaders, we need to have leaders. We don't need to have seat fillers. We need to have leaders.
I know that's right.
And we are, at this moment, I'm completely underwhelmed, and that's putting it very lightly, with regards to my assessment of the reaction that has been provided, or rather the non-reaction, to the ripping away of rights that our people fought and died for.
Yes.
It's just really insulting to me at a base level, as someone who understands what's happened, and I know they understand it. So why aren't you at least educating the people about it and speaking out about it, such that you can attempt to inject some shame into the situation with regards to the degree of violence that has been done to our rights by this ilk that's in office right now. It's truly infuriating.
Thank you, Doc. And we know, of course, that they have a razor-thin majority in the House of Representatives, and I can never tell whether or not Jim Jordan has a T-shirt on and that only clips with a glimpse. Anyway, the voters in Ohio don't seem to be particularly intelligent in picking who they send to the federal legislature, at least not Jim Jordan's district. But Mike, in terms of what's coming up right in front of us, thinking about this as Avis has framed it, I mean, we should be fueled by this kind of, these indignities, I mean, just brazen. You know, we saw the man's mugshot in a frame right outside the Oval Office today. The picture was floated. I mean, but even beyond that, there are 3 open House seats, right? We know Stefanczyk is now representing, God bless America, the UN, the country at the UN. And so the New York 21st is open, the Florida 6th. Mike Waltz, and of course, Matt Gaetz, who thought he was going to be Attorney General, so he resigned his seat in the Florida 1st. In the short term, how should people be thinking? And of course, we know 90 million people didn't vote at all, so which was the biggest number between Trump or Harris. But how should people be thinking about what they can do right now to get organized and to move? As Avis said, she's not waiting on any congressperson. We're going to do what we can. And are those 3 seats in play? The media will tell us that they're in blood red districts, but what's your opinion?
Well, first of all, I think to be engaged, number one, people need to be informed. That's why you need to watch the Black Star Network. Stop listening to Black social media disinformation agents, because they helped you get into this position in the first place when they told you don't vote for Kamala Harris. You see Project 2025, you see it being implemented right now. New York Times has an extensive analysis that breaks down how in the first 23 days of Donald Trump's administration, he's implemented 60 measures that come right from Project 2025, whether they are executive orders or memos or what have you. And then also you want to organize. Now, back during the first Trump administration, you had a lot of people all over the country that organized based upon the document called Indivisible. And Indivisible was put together by former congressional staffers, and it dealt with fighting against the Trump administration. And it has strategies and taught you to understand civics and how to put pressure on your member of the House of Representatives and your member of the U.S. Senate, because you and other people like you in those districts and states can vote those people out of office. So you have people now who are revisiting that. Indivisible is being formed in different chapters across the country. And it was, we know a couple Wednesdays ago, Indivisible organized a national day of protest, 50-51, 50 states, 50 protests. They protested at state capitals on one day. And we keep in mind, going back to the first Trump administration, when they saved the Affordable Health Care Act and John McCain gave the thumbs down, that was a result of pressure coming from everyday citizens organizing visiting their members of the House of Representatives every Tuesday, visiting their members of the Senate, et cetera, and putting pressure on them to save the Affordable Health Care Act. Also, we have to understand how with the measures that Trump is implementing right now, the downsizing of the federal government, okay, almost 19% of federal employees are African American. But the measures that he's putting in place are hurting everybody. The New York Times has an extensive article talking about how farmers who voted for Trump are being hurt, whether it's him putting a pause on the Inflation Reduction Act, shutting down USAID, et cetera. And then remember the trade war that Trump started with China, which killed the soybean market for farmers here. OK, so then the U.S. government had to do $26 billion in aid for farmers using taxpayer dollars because of him. So we have to, it's so much going on at the same time, but we have to organize, educate ourselves, understand civics, understand the law. And lastly, African Americans have to redirect dollars from businesses that have stopped diversity, equity, and inclusion, or rolled back from that, redirect those dollars to Black-owned businesses. Because a lot of times people are like, there's a campaign to don't spend any money on February 28th. That's the last day of Black History Month. You should be spending money with Black-owned businesses. See, we still haven't figured this out.
Yeah.
We only deal with giving white people our money or taking it away, but we don't have enough self-respect to redirect that energy to spend our dollars with Black-owned businesses so that they can grow economically and employ more African Americans. So we talk about redistribute, redirect, and renegotiate. Redistribute the pain through targeted economic withdrawal strategies, renegotiate our relationship with corporate America for more supplier contracts, et cetera, and redirect our dollars to African American-owned businesses. This is what we have to do in 2025.
Indeed, and we have experience with all of those, so it shouldn't be too difficult once, I guess, we feel enough pain.
Well, that's why we have to study the history.
No question. There's no question about it, brother. Brother Matt, finally, in the first block, when we were talking with Devin Ambres, the questions you raised, I mean, really nudging us toward the big question of constitutional crisis, which is raised. Do you think we are on the precipice of a constitutional crisis? And if so, how should we be acting at this point?
So, yes, Doc, and I appreciate that question. I had lunch with a couple lawyers and we were talking about it. And what's interesting that a lot of people don't realize, I'm sure you and Michael and Dr. Avis know, is the Supreme Court has never truly been a co-equal branch until like the modern era, essentially. When the country was founded, they were kind of the redheaded stepchild, if you will, of the branches. And it's interesting that they are having an outsized significance these days, considering in the history of this country, they have not. I tell you all of that to say, what concerns me is the big issue is the courts are responsive, but they're not something that reacts in real time. So what I've been racking my brain on is what do we do right now? Because lawsuits and everything are fine, but Elon Musk is looting the government today.
That's
right. And until I get in front of a judge and I get a judge to give me an order and I get them to adhere to that order, there's all kinds of damage being done. So, yes, I think we're at a constitutional crisis now. But the question that I keep asking myself and that I don't have an answer for you on is what do we do real time? Because the problem is right now, maybe down the road, the Senate confirms Elon Musk, but there is so much damage done between today and that day. Right. And what you do in real time, I don't know. I don't know whether it's some of the strategies that Michael mentioned, but I do know, and some of the things that Dr. Avis mentioned, I do know that what's not going to work is what we thought would work, what used to work. And now I don't know if that means our representatives, for instance, in the House need to start filibustering despite the statute that doesn't allow them to do that, whether they need to be standing at 1600 Pennsylvania every day, what we need to be doing as a people, because the things we would normally have as mechanisms to respond are clearly not only ineffective, but are not being given the same gravitas they normally are, i.e. the court system. And I don't know where that leaves us, but I do know that I think it has to be more radical action than thoughts and prayers and thought pieces and long social media posts. That's not going to get us there. And I don't know what the answer is in real time, but I'm trying to find that answer myself.
No question. We should reach out and find out, talk to Cliff and Latosha and the folks at Black Voters Matter, because right now the Republicans have a 218, 215 advantage in the federal legislature. Those 3 seats are open. So as I said before, the Florida 6th, the New York 21st, and the Florida 1st. And you can't tell me there aren't enough people in all 3 of those districts to flip those seats. And we might be able to make short work of this in the near future because they're going to have special elections. But that would require a hell of a lot of work And of course, we've done that kind of work before. We can do it again.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $6.65 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $4.8 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.